Yeah, that's so weird. So as a reporter, like as a sports reporter in this time, what do you do? Like, what's the situation like for sports reporters out there?
Well, it's funny. I think everybody, and you kind of see it, the people I'm plugged into on social media and stuff, you see how different stations and people across the country have adapted. And so some stations have kept like their sports segment, which is always like toward the end of the show. They've kept that traditional sports segment, and they've tried to do like super creative things, like some people have just done like recap type stories, you know what I mean? Or like looked back on the year that was or whatever, which to me is like cool to do sometimes, but at the end of the day, you're going to run out of that stuff pretty quick. Some people have done like
NBA and
stories
NFL are throwing them out there like every fucking day, saying some throwback game, some throwback date. Like,
Right. But as far as like keeping it local, which we're in, like local news, like it's hard to like go up there and justify like doing a big chunk of content that's like all national sports, which you're obviously, if you're a sports fan, you're getting just pounded with the same storyline because we don't have many right now. So basically our station, to keep long story short, took the approach of like, we're just going to scrap the sports segment. And like, I can't really argue with that because I could be creative and find things to do, but I just wonder like in this time, it might be like a welcome distraction, but is it really as impactful as like a daily, like what I do on the daily? I think I would run out of like real things that like people, I don't know, should see at this time. So anyways, they basically turned me into a news reporter. So that's what our station has decided to do. And that's, I got into the business to do sports. Let's just put it that way. More so because obviously I love sports, but they're really lighthearted. I like to try to make you feel better after you watch like a lot of usually mostly unfortunate news. And then you get to sports and hopefully I can cheer you back up. So that's usually my daily goal. But now they've got me covering just like pretty much all things like coronavirus, like just how people are adjusting, how businesses are adjusting. And so they're sending me out with a camera. I'm shooting all my own video. I'm doing all my own interviewing and producing and editing. And luckily they've got a lot of us working remotely now. So I've got like the whole setup at home, where I can edit and I can feed stuff back to the station. I can get into my scripts and everything and I can edit all that stuff. So like they've had me do, stories with restaurants or food providers that are adjusting. I went to a seafood provider actually, and you would appreciate because we did a lot of all you can eat sushi when you were here. And they were really hurting because obviously people aren't going to have sushi and then you can still do takeout, right? And curbside pickup and all that. But when I've thought about it, I'm like, who orders seafood to go? Like, I don't know. I don't really feel like that's a very popular item. So they were actually very stressed about like, we're going to have to maybe start laying people off. And it was like, now I'm kind of, as much as like I feel like telling some of these stories is good and hopefully making an impact and shedding light on good stuff amongst this, I also see why I got into sports because it's just like some of the stuff is hard to like see on a daily basis of like the real struggles that people are going through. And but that's kind of what I signed up for. So long story short, they've turned me into a news guy now with no sports going on.
If you're struggling for sports, they I guess, what is it, marble racing is like becoming a whole thing. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have seen some videos. Yeah. Are people making money off that and stuff or what?
People are legitimately betting on that. Yes.
Well, that's also one thing I thought about in this town, especially in Vegas, is so many people are professional gamblers. There's even a guy at our station that plays poker every Friday down at the Pepper Mill and not doing that anymore.
I mean, I'm sure they're finding ways to still gamble. It's just...
That's true. Online, if you're like
get a little inventive. Well,
right.
A lot of places online, you can't even technically gamble for real money these days, but I'm sure there's ways around all that for sure.
People getting together.
Yeah.
But
I forget what I was going to ask you after that.
Well, as far as people who do sports betting, that's not happening.
So sports is pretty much, in shambles right now and not really knowing what's going on. I guess NBA, NFL, or not NFL, but NBA, I'm sure NFL is going to follow soon. NASCAR, they did the whole esports thing. I don't know if you try to catch that. And ESPN is literally doing a whole stream of, NBA players playing each other on 2K.
Which is super cool. Like, you got to adapt anyway, right? There's no blueprint for how to handle this. So to me, that's like super odd. And those guys are all down for it. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. And it's kind of good that like ESPN was already kind of in the video game, so to speak, early on, starting to publicize that more. And now they really like need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched a little bit, but I'm just like, it's not for me. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure there's people.
Yeah, exactly.
People are still craving anything they can NBA related because obviously this is this was a big time for them. They were getting ready to go to playoffs, and they had whole storylines going. And now it's I don't know how they're going to really go forward, because who knows when they're going to be able to do things like this. Is like that day unprecedented. So.
Yeah, that day when they ended up suspending the season was like super surreal, because then that's what you felt like that's what really got everything started, obviously, because the NBA is so popular. But as a Lakers fan, yeah, I'm like, being the pettiness in me is like, man, we're on our way to something special in June. And so now you wonder what the heck's about to happen.
Yeah, like, I don't know, because like I said, in my league, they're talking about coming back in July. And I'm like, bro, like, I don't even know how you do that. Like,
right? Like, do you
the rhythm is
going
to be way different, so people are not going to be keeping the same type shape. The chemistry, the rhythm's not going to be the same. Like, if you have momentum, like, that's gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's weird. Like, I don't know how they're going to go forward with this. I think Italy basically just canceled their entire season, and they had like 10, 12 games left, So it's rough. Yeah, it's definitely rough, man. Like, it's a lot of unknowns, but I think, like I said, people are gonna have to start putting those type of contingencies in place now.
Exactly,
and especially in a hurry.
Well, one thing you'll never know the number, but you wonder how many lives have been saved by the amount of sporting events, because nothing really brings people together like sports. Truly, literally, and
tens of thousands of people. Yeah, in one area, it's not good at this time.
So yeah, and then the other side of that is, once they do come back, there's a great chance that they do it without fans, right? Which would be very weird in its own way. So
we're for sure doing it without sports if we do come back, and I'm not. I don't think I would do it if it was a whole arena, honestly. And I don't think a lot of NBA players would do it if it was the whole arena too, because it just doesn't make sense at this time. Like, nobody knows. Like, literally nobody knows what's going on. So it's like, why would you even risk it? Type situation, And also the travel. So it's gonna have to be, I think, in one or two areas, and just gotta do it tournament style, because travel is some of the biggest concerns. So I didn't read up too much on it. But I had seen something about how China was trying to construct some kind of plan where their league basically all took place, like you said, in the same area, and the players like actually stayed in that same area. They never left it. They like put the league in a bubble. They were going to try to do, a safe bubble and continue playing. But I don't know if that ever materialized. So I have some friends who play in China, and they were basically trying to have it in one city, one area for the remainder of the season, which wasn't that much longer anyways. But they're trying to have it basically everybody stays in the same cities, everybody plays in the same city, and just do it like that. But I don't know if they actually did it, because I think they started having some kind of resurgence from people coming back into the country. So I think they postponed it again. Even Japan, they tried to come back like maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and then they did it for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then ended up just canceling it all together. It's like, yeah, you can try a lot of things, but also you still never know. Everything's such in a flux, like right now, like, and so fragile that, yeah, you can try, but I don't know how that's really, really going to work out. I think if anybody will do it, it will be the NBA, just because there's a lot of money, riding on that, and I'm sure they'll try to find a way to do it. It's going to be weird either way, and like no fans is, I don't know how, it's like a scrimmage, and I don't know if you've been part of a scrimmage like that. It's not the same, bro. Like, it's just not. So you wonder what the play will be like, because obviously guys are motivated and competitive against each other, but the fans bring out so much more a lot of times. Add a lot, yeah.
And actually the experience of like watching a game too, like the natural noise that you might take for granted of the crowd. You like, once you lose that, like that's crazy. That's actually a really crazy thought. But one thing I did see is people thinking that you might be able to hear the trash talk a little better, which that would be kind of fun, I think.
I think they will try to mute the trash talk, to be honest, because the trash talk isn't necessarily TV friendly. So I highly doubt they're gonna have mics on players at that time. So
well, I think most people who watch should know, but if you need a little inside baseball, there's a delay. There's always a delay, and that's why sometimes you'll hear the sound go out right after a play under the basket or something, because they were able to hear a guy say something, and then they're, that's coming up, turn it down.